Hokey pokey weirdos, Reverie Cosplay 98 at your service. And welcome to my world of cosplay shenaniganery. Even though I'm a cosplayer, I am also a furry, so let's check out how I made the hat of Lucy Lacemaker. Materials I used: a Dollar Tree sun hat as a base, red vinyl that I thrifted from Hidden Treasure 2, I have a video for that if you would like to see it, metal hair clips, old bed sheets, and paracord. And because I did not have my sewing machine at the time of filming this video, as well as I'm too cheap to make a second hat just for a video, I will be demonstrating this with construction paper. First, you gotta measure everything out. Yay, numbers! Grr. For me, with my sun hat base, the brim wasn't wide enough for my liking, so I measured out an extra 2 inches all the way around the circumference. About a ½ inch of that extra 2 inches on the larger circumference circle will be seam allowance of the brim, making the diameter of my fabric 4 inches wider than the hat brim. Then I measured the hat band, making it about 1.5 inches taller. You'll see more on the hat brim later. Lastly, you measure out the circumference of the inside of the hat. That will end up being the top as well as the hole you cut out of the center of the larger circles, because you will need 2 of the largest circles, 1 of the top hat, and 1 hat band. Cutting out those larger circles, cut out the main circle first, find the center of those large circles, and cut out the smaller diameter circle out of the center. And here's the important thing about the hat band. If you watch closely, I did not fold it completely straight. And yes, this drives my OCD crazy, but it is important for making this hat because her hat is a little slouchy and kind of falling apart. Therefore, to give that illusion, I made the hat band at an angle so that when sewn down, it would look like it's flopping over to one side. Finally, I cut out that smaller circumference circle, but with an added about 1 inch around the outer edge to give myself some wiggle room when sewing everything together. Because I was working with construction paper, I labeled each piece with a F for everybody, and a B for front and back so that you would know which side I was working with when translated to fabric. Me taping these pieces will constitute as sewing. To start, I sewed the smaller circumference circle into the hat band. Everything will be facing inside out at first so that the seam connecting the 2 pieces stay on the inside of the hat. Otherwise, you can just crush construction paper together and hope it works. Next, I take the hat band and top, which are already sewn together, and connect them to the first part of the hat brim. The way I connect them is slipping the hat band through the inner cutout circle of the larger circle, and then pinching a little lip between the 2, and that lip is what will be sewn so that all the stitching stays on the inside. After flipping the hat brim and top right sides out, finally you add the second half of the hat brim. Slip it over the top of the hat, facing up, so that when you flip it inside out, the pretty side will be on the underside of the hat and the wrong side will be facing the inside of the hat and no one will see it. Sew the 2 hat brim pieces all the way around the circumference, and then you can flip that inside out once it's sewn, and you have pretty ends on either side. And now you can slip your little hat inside the sleeve that you just made, or lose your little bead inside this giant hat. Okay, let's get a better hat. The old bed sheets I used to line the hat, and this didn't have anything super strategic about it because I was just working with scraps and hot glued wherever I could manage. I also hot glued the vinyl down onto the hat so that it wouldn't be going anywhere while I wore this at a convention, if conventions ever happen again. Up next, you get to see how I weathered this hat. I used my trusty old Dremel. Now, most people would suggest you Dremel in the direction of which the wheel is spinning, but because I wanted the Dremel to chatter and catch funny on this hat to rip it up, I worked opposite in the direction that the wheel was spinning nearly the whole time. I caught every edge that stuck out a little further and every bump and groove that came naturally in the material from it being thrifted, or from me making any mistakes. To put the hair clips in, I just hot glued them down and then clipped a piece of cardboard in between the prongs to keep them from gluing to each other. Cardboard is a lot easier to rip away from hot glue. Next up, the paracord. I know she technically has a scarf wrapped around her hat, but I didn't have the material at the time, and I preferred just to get her costume done and then be able to edit it later on. Therefore, I worked with what I had. I'll be making it the same way I made the little paracord strap on the smaller version of her hat I made as a wall decoration, i.e. cutting paracord, heating them up, pinching together, or you could struggle with the clicker like I do every single time. Alright, let's try this again. Heat it up, melt down the paracord so it doesn't fray, pinch the ends with pliers so you don't burn yourself. Be very careful with fire. Do not burn anything except the paracord, and do not set anything on fire, please. I will not take responsibility for that. And finally comes the fun adventure of constantly twisting the paracord and hot gluing it every 2 twists. Twist, twist, hot glue. Twist, twist, hot glue. Then heat up the ends, hot glue them together, and move on to the hat to attach them. I attached them to the hat with hot glue as well, and this means that I can put the scarf on the hat later on without having the paracord underneath, because I can tap the hat with my heat gun, heat up the hot glue just enough to make it soft, and then get the paracord to release. If you do something like this as well, be very careful of any other pieces of the hat that could melt. Just little light touches of the heat gun will do just fine. And to end it, I tucked the end of the paracord behind a layer that was already there, so you can't see the ends, but they can easily be removed. And there you have it, my Lucy Lacemaker hat that will be updated in the future. Next up will be Lucy Lacemaker's tail. If you would like to see more costume, cosplay, and/or crafting content, remember to subs, comms, thumbs, ding!
Can you say desperate content creator?
For more tips on how to make a hat, with me having the actual materials, feel free to check out my mushroom hat video. And welcome to the madness.
Nope. I don't want to fire.
Let's try this again.